Okay, welcome back, folks. I'm here again with Fernando, and we're going to be talking about the Yavanajataka some more. We're almost done. This is probably our second to last video. This is video 10. As per my count, we're going to do chapters 64 to 71. It's more Prashna, horary stuff primarily. And then we start to get some really interesting stuff here. We get a chapter on dreams. We get a chapter on linking grammar and vowels and things to planets. And, we get some strange stuff for sure as well. So we'll just launch into it and talk about each chapter a little bit like we normally do. All right, so, okay, chapter 64. Did you want to introduce this chapter?
Sure. What we have here in chapter 64, as you mentioned correctly, is basically we further delve into the world of Prashna from the Yavanajataka point of view. And what he does in this chapter is that he talks about lost objects, which is usually a very popular theme that we see with Prashnas. The following chapters, I was thinking this would be great material to cross-check with other Prashna books from, not only from Jyotish like Prashna Marga, or, other techniques like other schools, like, for example, medieval Renaissance astrology. But,
Sure.
it's interesting. I mean, there are a lot of technicalities here, a lot of little things that make a whole lot of difference. He employs different things, not only conjunctions or prepositions, but he also uses vargas. And I mean, it's very intrinsic, to be honest with you. And once again, this kind of raises the question if a person who practices prashna should have an open book, because I don't see how anyone can memorize all these things, and most of them don't make immediate sense in relation to basic principles of astrology. But yeah, that's what I have to say for now.
Okay. Yeah, that's really well said. I agree. Like a lot of this stuff, it's not easily graspable. Like why does this configuration signify this thing? It's not something you could easily memorize. And what I think is interesting here is we keep seeing like an emphasis on like the Dwadasamsha. And sometimes he brings in the Navamsha and even the Decadent. This has been a theme throughout the whole text where it's like, if the Lord of these subdivisions is strong, it can override or, excuse me, greatly modify what the sign and its Lord signify. And it reminds me as well of in a book that Ben Dykes translated and published that I have on horary. It's called The Search of the Heart. It's actually one of my favorite books on horary. It's like a little gem of techniques. And there's an appendix in it from Rhetorius. I think it's Rhetorius, where he goes through like what every 12th part of every sign means.
Wow.
In the ascendant. And it's similar to this, where it's really not something you could memorize very easily. It's like, and I think it's more meant to be teaching by example. And that's probably what we're finding here too, is like, the author of this text or whoever, or authors or whatever, right? Whoever wrote this is probably trying to illustrate more abstractly, like how you would read this stuff. It does make you wonder, like why this text and many other texts that are very old, why they don't give example charts. Some of them do occasionally, like Valens does quite a bit. Vettius Valens gives quite a lot of example charts, but he's one of the few. I mean, even in the Middle Ages and stuff.
Maybe because it's more of a modern conception, the idea that these texts should have empirical evidence to back them up.
Oh, yeah. I don't mean empirical evidence. I just mean like a demonstration.
Drawings, yeah.
Just like, hey, this is an example of what I'm trying to illustrate. Like, because when Valens does it, it's very helpful. It's like, oh, cool. So that's how he would do it. Wow.
Maybe they had them. I mean, now that you say, maybe they had these charts, but maybe in the process of transcribing the different texts throughout the different centuries,
Sure,
maybe
right.
they got lost.
That's
I mean,
possible. Yeah.
because usually, as we have been told through writings, um, these people didn't really give you a chart. They would give you just positions,
Hmm.
and then you would transcribe those positions into a board and allocate the positions. But yeah, that's very true. I mean, not even a chart, but just positions. We never see that. And I mean, probably I think it has to do with the tradition of transcribing the texts, and
Sure.
maybe with the idea that this was a whole different mindset. I mean, these texts were not read by common folk like you and me. These were read
Right.
by the creme de la creme of
Yeah.
ancient society. I mean,
Yeah.
and it's the idea that you are maybe you are in contact with higher knowledge, and to question it, or to even uh, uh, not even to question it, but the idea that these texts are incomplete or need something else would be like blasphemous to a certain degree. I don't know. I'm just I'm just postulating different possibilities. But you mentioned Rhetoricus, right? You
Ret-
mentioned
Ret-
Rhetoricus.
Rhetorius, the Egyptian, he
Rhetorius.
was.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, Rhetorius. And Rhetorius is a late Hellenistic astrologer who
Yeah.
delved into the questions of horary, probably 6th or 7th century. If I'm not mistaken.
No, I
But
think he's a.
that's
I think he's a bit earlier than that. He,
six
he
five.
he's later in the grander
Yeah,
scheme,
he's
but
late.
I think sixth or seventh we're already getting more into the Persian medieval Persian text.
And not only that, into most horary things with
Yeah.
more emphasis, which further on emphasizes the thing that I've said in previous videos, that this content on horary, is rather new than rather very old. I
Yeah.
mean, rather not as old as the oldest things we know about astrology.
Right.
Horary was a more a later development in horoscopic astrology.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, that's what I can say about the charts.
Yeah, that's a good point, and that I think that is a very good theory overall. So
And by the way, have you ever done a prashna where you successfully found a lost object? Because I've never done
yeah,
that.
I've done it multiple times actually, and I can't say that like, typically it's not the type of thing where like you look at the chart and you're like, it's in the second drawer to the left on the bureau on the far side of the bedroom. Like it's not like that's like those are like rare moments in lost object horror. Usually what it's like is it's like, oh, okay, it's near something that to do with fire. Like, do you have a fireplace? No. Okay, then we'll look in the kitchen, and it's probably underneath something. So if you have like a pile of magazines, or if you have like maybe in a drawer, okay. Oh, I found it. I found it. Yeah, it was in the drawer. It's something like that.
Okay.
It's um, and sometimes, man, like one time I correctly ascertained that like my mom was looking for her passport, and we did a horary, and I was like, yeah, no, it's got to be in this drawer by the computer, like underneath all this stuff. And she's like, but I've looked there a bunch of times. And I was like, well, I think you're gonna find it. But it's not gonna show up for a few months. Well, she got a new passport, and then after that, she found it exactly where I said it was. And unfortunately, though, she had already gotten the new passport.
Yeah, it's like $100 right there.
But yeah, I mean, as far as getting like super, super specific, it's like if you go to skyscript.co.uk, which is Deborah Holding's site, which is an excellent website for all things traditional astrology. And Deborah Holding herself is a wonderful horary astrologer. She has an article on there somewhere like called like Where Is It? And it's like about 5 or 6 examples, and it's an overview of like mostly Lily's technique for finding lost objects. So it's a great resource. If you just Google it, you'll probably find it. But anyway, the example charts, like when they analyze them and go back through them, it's not to say that they like predicted it spot on, but when they went back through, they even found things like classically, like the tree that this object was near was associated with this planet.
Okay.
Like that was important for the lost object. That was like aspecting the significant, like, so it's amazing how accurate this stuff can be. But as far as actually like predicting that's very difficult, because you would have to memorize a tremendous amount of stuff. And you'd have, like, if it's a tree, you'd have to know what kind of trees are in that area that you're looking for, so anyway, that was a little bit of an aside, but yeah, Yavanajataka doesn't really give us that in-depth of a chapter on this. It's sort of like a little tiny taste of how to find lost objects and how to identify thieves. Whereas, more dedicated horary texts like William Lilly, they give pages on how to find the thief and how to find, so anyway, let's just move on.
Yeah, and he talks about if the thief is like in exile, or is if he's like already far away from where you are, those types of secondary aspects that are quite interesting.
It's pretty wild, yeah, how in depth you can get with this stuff. So yeah, and horary is like my favorite kind of astrology, honestly. Okay, so chapter 65 is on death. So predicting death from a horary. So there's been quite a lot of death stuff in Yavanajataka. It's pretty much like what you would expect, if the moon is with Saturn and Mars afflicted in a negative house, like the 6th, 8th, or 12th, stuff like that. I didn't really find anything that like I was like, whoa, really? That blows my mind. Like, I don't know about you.
No, not really. I mean, people used to die much more
Easily, yeah.
Easily than today, so it's quite obvious this is here. And as you said, obvious things about malefics and negative aspects and all that.
Yeah, so we have to remember that for today, like a lot of the times, these configurations can mean, in a horary about death, they can mean the person will
separation, have to divorce,
yeah, or that the person will undergo like a surgery, or like that they'll narrowly escape death. Because the thing is with modern medicine, like there's a lot of things that can be salvaged that couldn't be in the past. So
except for anti-vaxxers, yeah.
Except for anti-vaxxers.
Yeah. They're gonna die like people used to die in the 2nd century BC. I'm just kidding.
Okay. Anyway, this chapter is pretty straightforward, so I think we should just move on.
Yeah. I mean, these chapters,
they're all pretty straightforward.
Yeah. In comparison with the other ones we did in the last video, these are more straight on. The others, the others that we touched on chapters, 60, 61, 62, hello, they were kind of weird. These are more straight on. These are more in accordance with the others we've read before. So yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Chapter 66 is just identifying the births of males or females based on, I guess if a question was asked, am I going to have a son or a daughter, or I'm pregnant, am I going to have a son or a daughter, that kind of a thing. But these are also general principles that are definitely applicable to the birth chart if you read them, right? Like Mercury and Saturn, if they're influenced by masculine planets, they give masculine. If they're influenced by feminine, they give women, and that's because they're neuter planets. So it's pretty straight. No, I said Mercury and Saturn.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then there was something kind of weird in here, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe not. Oh, was it?
If Mercury is in its base triplicity in a Varga of Jupiter, or if an Avancha of Mercury is it in the ascendant in a Varga of Jupiter, or if Jupiter is in the ascendant. Was it here, or was it in another chapter?
The feminine Varga thing. Like, I don't know why Jupiter in a feminine Varga would produce a sun, but maybe they're just trying to drive home the point that maybe Jupiter just usually produces suns.
Yeah, well, Jupiter is a karka for children.
Right.
Children in female children.
Right, no, but it says feminine Varga, a son is born.
Yeah. Maybe that was something that got screwed up in translation. I don't know.
Possibly,
This is
yeah.
why we should know Sanskrit.
Yeah, we should learn classical Sanskrit so we can
Yeah.
better comment. Okay, well, yeah, I guess moving on, unless you had something to add.
No, not really. 67 is about food, a favorite topic of mine.
Yeah, cool.
So it's kind of funny, about food. You know, it's quite funny that you think that in the third century AD in India, somebody would go to an astrologer and say, "What am I gonna eat tomorrow?"
Yeah, I don't know if they would, or if this was like a way to. I don't know what this would have been used for. I mean, there are like in Persian astrology, there are parts or lots that are for like cucumbers and potatoes and things like that,
The
So
cucumber lot, very popular. Yes,
yeah, so you can do horaries on like, is my crop going to be good this year? That kind of a thing.
of course, yeah.
Um, but this could be good. This kind of thing, maybe this could be good for like prescribing remedies, like what foods will help the person.
That's true.
Who
That,
knows,
that
right?
that's a good way to see it. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I think this is fascinating too. This is like a wonderful little section, like sun being dry meat, and it all makes sense too. It all seems to make a lot of good sense because the sun is very dry and whatnot. And people can just read this for themselves, hopefully. So, okay, moving on to chapter 68, which was about sleep.
yes.
And this was very odd to me. It was like kind of trying to describe like the bed and like if the person goes to sleep with the lights on or the lights out. And I don't really know what this would be used for.
I think these are particularities. Those little accents that really sharpen your prediction or personalizes it to a degree that the client is going to feel like, wow, this is really it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But these are traditional texts. So, I mean, instead of the client, what type of Netflix show the person likes to watch or what type of drink the person likes to drink, they would tell them about their bed. Everybody had a bed, or at least everybody who had a house had a bed.
Sure.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't know how these were employed, but it basically, the sleep was also very important, and we're gonna get into it also with dreams, if I'm not mistaken, afterwards. Uh, Dreams and sleep was very important in terms of interpreting dreams and
Yeah.
spirituality. I think supposedly our daimon would visit us in our dreams and that sort of thing. So I don't know.
Sure. Yeah, and at the bottom here, there's a little shloka. You can't see it, but it talks about if the native will benefit from Netflix and chill.
Oh.
Okay. Anyway, okay, just a little joke there. Chapter 69. This is where
Yeah,
we.
but you don't need a bed for that anymore.
No, you don't. You don't. Yeah. It's funny too, though, that actually it does talk about here like what kind of woman the native
Yeah.
will sleep with, just like randomly. It just sort of like inserts this like, and here's some stuff about sex.
Yeah.
Uh,
And by the way, just to let people know, in Jyotish, Venus is both significator of women, beds, and bedrooms because, usually they all go together, and that's the idea.
sure, sure,
I mean, all together in the sense of sexual intercourse.
sure. Yeah, I guess not really anymore, like you said. But
Cut off. Can you repeat?
oh, sorry. Yeah, I guess not really anymore, like you said. But
Oh, well, yeah. I mean,
but yes, I mean yes.
technically,
But,
I mean, it's still there. I mean,
no, it
it's
is.
not
Yeah,
like if it was replaced. It's that the idea has evolved from the bedroom to other spaces in the house and
yeah.
and and the town or the city or whatever you like.
Yeah, whatever you're into there, huh?
Yeah, sure.
Alrighty. So chapter 69 is where we get
There's a page
dreams.
missing. Does your document miss a page with this one?
Let's see, does it? I didn't notice that if it
The
did.
next page is not there, is it?
I have page 168. I have page 168.
Oh, you have them. Oh my God. I didn't have that one in my.
Oh, that's
Okay,
weird.
cool.
Huh.
Cool.
Yeah, so it just goes through all the signs, rising in relation to dream interpretation. So, if the sixth sign Virgo is rising, he sees women,
That's
clothes,
nice. Can you
perfumes.
guess what it was?
What, your dream?
Yeah.
What,
You
no.
have to make the horary where you are to guess
Oh,
the
okay.
dream I had.
Uh, okay, hang on, hang on.
You don't have an app in your phone where you can. Okay,
I
okay.
do, yeah.
Go for it. Go for it.
All right, what was Fernando dreaming? Let's find out, huh? Okay. So Taurus is rising. So let's go look at Taurus. All right, Taurus is rising with Mars in Taurus, like right on the ascendant, pretty much. So possibly woods, gardens, fruits, herbs, women, cow milk, food, ornaments, clothing, peacocks, snakes, or quadrupeds, and farmers. Or if we go to the next chapter, which is just a sister to this, it gives the planets in the
Yeah.
different signs, all the different signs. So if let's see, if Mars is in Taurus, of armies, snakes, wasps, and quadrupeds.
Actually, no, none of those.
Actually, none of those. Yeah, that's what I thought.
I dreamt I was in like a county fair or one of those places, and I
Oh,
was playing poker in one of those like you know those booths where you usually play games and win toys and everything. But instead of that, I was playing cards and I was betting money. And I was betting money, and then I said I'm gonna bet it all, and then I woke up.
wow. Wow, well, that's interesting. I
maybe
don't.
maybe the idea of Taurus, it was like it wasn't
Sure.
in an urban setting, it was more of a rural setting, that type of
Oh, okay. Yeah, like
like
an
a
old-fashioned.
county fair or something like that. And
Yeah, Mars is the 12th lord, signifying expenses.
yeah, and it was
I don't
two
know.
women, it inside and one outside.
Oh, wait, sorry. I lost you for a moment. There was two women.
Yeah, there were two women, like one inside the booth and one besides me, because I
Oh,
thought they were cheating me.
oh, okay. Okay.
So I guess Mars is there in a way.
Yeah, Mars cheats people, right? Or can. And
Yeah, he's a thief. Yeah.
mhm. Yeah, and you have also, well, Mercury's in the 12th by quadrant, and Mercury rules the second, but it's in the 11th
Well,
technically.
yeah, it didn't work.
Failure. Well,
Failure.
I think these are good. I think these are good little chapters. They have a lot of good information that could be utilized, but I think that the rules that like the rules that Lilly and like Bonatti give for dream interpretation, even though it's another tradition, I think they're more comprehensive. They're more extensive, and they mainly focus on the ninth, not on the first. So this is
Hmm.
kind of a different methodology, a different way of going at it. And it makes a certain amount of sense because the first house does signify a lot about our thoughts and our focus and whatnot. So, um, yeah, I think it would, asking a question about dreams, the first house would show a lot about like why we're asking it, what we're focused on. But maybe not the dream itself. I don't know. But yeah, that's chapter 70.
Topics that should be cross-checked with other traditions, in my opinion,
Sure.
just
Yeah.
just to make a closer analysis of all. So Lars,
Sorry.
you're cutting off, by the way.
I know you're cutting out too. Yeah, it's like a little bit shaky right now, but we're almost done. So
Okay.
we're almost done. But yeah, you were just saying that these chapters should probably be compared to some other
Yes.
traditions, and yeah, I agree. That would be helpful for us learning it. Okay. Okay, we're almost there. All right, so chapter 71. Um,
Here we're dealing with aksharas, like he names it, and basically aksharas are like syllables or like compound phonemes that we use in Sanskrit. Although I don't know if, people say they come from Greece, so these would be more of Greek syllables. I don't know. I mean, he gives the definitions of what the planets mean in terms of the phonetic syllables they represent. So they are, as you know, I am accustomed to the same definitions he gives. Although he doesn't mention a lot about the luminaries, prime five planets, he gives definitions in relation to the syllables they might represent. And this is the idea that when somebody comes to a horary meeting, and the idea of you should read the client, you should read the different omens. I mean, you should he has and obviously the type of words he uses. And this is the idea that if somebody uses a word that sound that represents a planet, then you have to pay attention to that planet. And obviously you have to also pay attention to other significators. For example, if the person
sure.
is wearing a type of clothing, for example, thick clothes is the sun, expensive clothes is Venus, brand new clothes, I think, or clean clothes is Mercury, if I'm not mistaken.
Hmm.
Jupiter is yellow clothes and normal looking clothes. Obviously Saturn are rags, and so on and so forth.
Sure.
And another thing are the vowels. I mean, usually the sun are the vowels, look at me, the syllables or the phonetic sounds.
Okay.
Usually the sun are vowels, the moon is semi-vowels, sibilants, and Mars are gutturals, Mercury are retroflex and reflexives, Jupiter are dentals, Venus are palatals, and Saturn are labials. So yeah.
Okay. Cool.
But then he gives another technique that kind of resembles the techniques he was giving in chapter 62 about odd signs, has 3, 5, 7 syllables, depending on the decan, even decan, but then he changes it, fixed signs, and if it's 2 or 4. I mean, it gets really complicated. And when he started changing the rules, I said, fuck this.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, it went way over my head.
Yes, which further complicates these things. And in Jyotish, you also kind of get this with the nakshatras, but we've said before the nakshatras are a further development down the road of
Yeah.
how
Okay.
certain nakshatras can represent certain syllables in Sanskrit. But yeah, I
Sure.
mean, it's an interesting chapter. I think this is one of the most interesting, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's definitely worth investigation for those interested in this kind of stuff. Absolutely. So, oh, I guess
The question
72
is,
continues it, huh? I didn't realize that. Okay.
oh yeah, we can look it up in the next chapter. But I mean, the question is, are these phonemes, phonetic sounds from Greek, or are these phonetic sounds of Sanskrit, or is this something like autochthonous of India that got incorporated here? There are many questions about the cross pollination between cultures, and this
Sure.
can really this can really draw light to it, because one of the principal arguments to say that Yavanajataka is mainly Hellenistic and not Indian is basically the use of words. And here we have a chapter that specifically deals with words. And, it would be interesting to really analyze this chapter to further investigate this possible connection between both cultures.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. And without further knowledge of the languages, we're kind of at a loss, aren't we?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, I guess that does it for this video. And in the next video, we'll talk about 72 to the end, and this continues the stuff on language a little more in detail. It looks like so that'll be interesting to look at. But yeah, I'm going to stop the share and yeah. All right, cool. Well, the internet's a little funky, so I think it's just best if we close out the video here. It's a short video, but
I
we're
mean, it
getting
was
to the end.
short. I mean, just these chapters weren't really uh, intrinsically complicated because
Right.
we've been doing horary things for the last 3 videos, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And he just this is like the miscellaneous chapter on horary, to be honest. And horary chapters, they are application only chapters. You can't really talk about the logic behind why Scorpio Aquarius rising, as he said, Scorpio Aquarius rising, and if the sun is in the eighth, the object will never be found, or something like. There was
Yeah,
a
there
quote.
was something like that in the
Yeah,
object.
I mean, you
Sure.
can't really explain that to the viewers. You can't really explain that to the person. You only, if you see that in a chart at the moment somebody asks you, then it is there. I mean, and the same, we could say the same of other Prashna texts. These are application only
Yeah.
chapters, and to talk about why these are valid or not are just not necessary. Logical descriptions, logical commentary, because they are not logical.
Yeah.
I mean, and if they are, it escapes of the limited understanding we might have in comparison to these, elders from
Yeah.
centuries ago, who probably were more capable than us in astrology and other things. Of
Yeah.
course, they yeah,
Probably.
but at the same time, they wouldn't be able to operate a computer, so it's it balances itself out.
Sure. Sure. Definitely. All right, cool. Well, I think that summarizes it for this video. So, yeah, for those of you watching, if you haven't gotten a copy of this text, you can find it on Google.
Yeah,
And
don't buy it on paper because it's
don't,
really
yeah, it's like $1,000.
yeah.
And, just, yeah, check out our websites and check out Fernando's YouTube channel. It'll be there in the explanation under the video. And otherwise, stay tuned for next time, where we will hopefully finish up talking about this text. All right. See you later, man.